very good morning to all out there. My name is Chloe Tetro. I am the health coach here with Ready Care. For this morning's session, we're going to be looking at sticking to a plan while on holidays. So, in my time here with Ready Care over the last 3.5+ years and hundreds of clients, the holiday question tends to be one that causes quite a lot of anxiety for folks that are either thriving on their new food protocol. If they're doing really, really well and they know that they've got a holiday coming up, it can really build up a tension and anxiety towards it. And for those that are struggling, it can be even worse, where they can feel like, oh, jeepers, there's a holiday coming up and I just know that's the baby will be out with the bathwater with it. So I suppose for this morning session, I really just wanted to have a look at what are some of the approaches and strategies that you can take going into a holiday, where basically you can come away from it, from your plan, feeling resolute, feeling like you're making a decision that's going to support your health there, while not taking away from the rest, relaxation, and enjoyment of the period, which is exactly what it's for. It's not every week that we go on holidays. So it's a way to really balance that out, that makes you feel like health doesn't have to mean not participating, and participating doesn't have to mean going totally off plan and coming away from that holiday period feeling low in yourself. So they can feel like psychological crossroads, all holidays. They can either refresh us, they can boost our morale, our confidence, and give us loads of evidence that actually we're really on this. We've got the food protocol down to a T, and we have gathered loads of evidence that she wasn't able to stick to it there. For people that can do that, they come away from holidays feeling on top of the world, feeling super in control, feeling really proud of themselves. On the flip side, they can derail us. They can leave us feeling overwhelmed, guilty, and gathered more evidence that we're not capable. So the difference between these two outcomes is hugely psychological, mindset, preparation. So we'll have a look at a few different avenues that I've personally found helpful in my 9 years of eating low carb, and that working with all the clients that I have over the years, they have co-created this map. There's a few things in there on research that is widely available, but primarily this is an awful lot down to what works and what doesn't. So the first thing that I'd say to people, if you're anxious about going on holidays and sticking to your plan, is have a game plan, right? Figure out what it is you actually want to do. And why I say that is we can get really caught up in the shoulds. I should do this, I should do that, I really ought to do this, I really blah, blah. And what can happen is you end up tricking yourself into thinking that you want something that you don't actually want. Now, what am I saying here? Am I saying throw it out altogether? I'm not. But what I am saying is to be really realistic and honest with yourself, because as adults, and as children, but as adults, we don't like being told to do something we don't actually want to do. And where a lot of cognitive friction can start to come into play is when you tell yourself you're going to stick to this 100%, and in your very honest back of your mind, you know you don't want to do that. You absolutely don't want to do that. So you've told your whole family, no, I'll be sticking to that now, and da. What happens then is that the first opportunity where there's an out of that false promise, you'll take it. And you'll take it having told your family and friends, you'll take it having told yourself. And what will happen is you're going to feel rubbish about yourself. You'll go, jeepers, why couldn't I just stick to that? Whereas if you were honest with yourself and said, look, I want to do the best, but I'm going to Crete. They're world famous for their cuisine. I do want to try a few things, and I've been sticking to this rigorously. I've been over the 90% sticking to it, which should allow for a nice chunky 10% while I'm on holidays without it interfering in your overall plans. Now, I say that with the caveat of being balanced with this, where a lot of difficulty comes in where people have been very strict, is they'll flick to the other extreme then and go absolutely bonkers, right? What I'm not saying is to utilize this as a carte blanche and go absolutely bonkers, because I talk a lot of being measured and allowing yourself specific things. But if you enter into the mindset of I'm gonna have everything in the kitchen sink. It can damage your progress, specifically if you're going for a HbA1c test, which looks at a 3-month snapshot. You could have been excellent for 2 months. If for 2 weeks out of the third month you're going absolutely nuts, that is realistically going to impact your blood results. So what I am advocating for here is to be very honest, know whether you want to stick to it all in or whether you'd like to allow for some allowances, because then if you know you'd like to allow for some allowances, you can plan. And when you can plan, it takes away the impulse that can happen when you're tired, hungry, or have a few drinks in you, which are way more likely when you're on holidays. So knowing that you want to deviate will mean that suddenly you can look up restaurants that you actually want to go to. The biggest buzzkill where holidays are concerned, and the one that I would say is often a throwaway, which I would really invite to be clever and plan around, is the all-inclusive buffet breakfast. And why I say it's a buzzkill is unless you're going to Paris, France, and there's the world's best known boulangerie patisserie, you know what a croissant tastes like. There's going to be no shock and surprises if you're in Greece, if you're on a cruise, if you're in Lanzarote, if you're in Turkey, if you're in any of these places. If there's an all-inclusive buffet, you know what a croissant tastes like, right? It's not going to add culturally to your day. What it will do is leverage the fact that you're not in charge of your breakfast. You're likely a little bit more hungry. You're likely, captivated by the smells, that things are there that you wouldn't usually have to have in your eye line in the morning. What I would say there, and why I'm advocating for planning, is if you're in a local place with really good local cuisine and you want to sample some of that local cuisine, that's a very different choice than just going for stuff that you already know it's what it's going to taste like. Now, why it's important to have that in place is due to something called the intentional change theory. Which is a psychological theory that shows that setting clear intentions significantly reduces decision fatigue and anxiety. And that's where an awful lot of these haphazard throwaway decisions can come in. The breakfast croissant. It's mostly because usually at home, you've done a shop, you know what's expected. Or if you eat breakfast at work, they've got the scrambled eggs, they've got the bacon. Specific things are measurable and predictable. Where holidays come in, there's the novelty aspect and the new decisions you have to make all the time, and what can happen, and the experience of it, which is, I'll go through that now, which is, jeepers, look, I don't care anymore. Look, whatever it is you're having, I'll have. Right? That's a prime example of decision fatigue, where you've been picking things all the time and you just say, just whatever, I'll have whatever. I'm hungry now. Just you make the decision. If you know ahead of time what you're having, if you're able to look at the breakfasts in the hotels, if you're able to look at the local spots and pick out ahead of time. So prime tip, and look, I'll even make a little heading for it. Prime tip, bam. Prime tip is figure out what's in the local vicinity and get excited about something that you want to have for breakfast. All of these things are better known when you're not under the influence of fatigue and hunger, where your decision-making capabilities just go. None of us want to make decisions when we're hungry or tired. If you know ahead of time where you're staying, which hopefully you do if you're going on holidays, if you know ahead of time where you're staying, you'll know what's available. Most places you can see the menu online. You'll have an idea of things you want to have day in, day out, which allows for your occasional, do you know what? I will have a baklava. They look absolutely divine, and the gentleman in the restaurant said these are the best in the area. I'm going to have a little bit. That means your whole day's been fairly low carb. You're having something that you fancy. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Now, the mindful aspect of it goes into it, and I don't mean pulling up a chair, telling the people in the restaurant, please close the blinds, I'm having a mindful eating moment. But enjoying your meal mindfully instead of distractfully plays a huge part in it. You want to be tasting flavors. You want to be in the moment. You want to be really plugged into stuff. food becomes more enjoyable, and a Harvard research shown that mindful eating can cut calorie intake by approximately 15%. What do I mean by that? And this is why people will say, try not to eat in front of the TV, Netflix, laptop, phone, is we're more likely to eat, enjoy our food, chew our food properly, which matters for your digestion, but also not overeat when we're present, when we're plugged in. So that's sometimes doable, sometimes not as much, but it's a huge, huge contributing factor to minding your eating, is actually being mindful instead of totally the opposite of that. Word escapes me just now. Mindless, bam, mindless eating. So making sure that you're plugged in, you're present for it, that will all play a part. Now, firstly, you're deciding what you want to do. Are you going to take time off? If you are, own it. It's absolutely okay to do that. That's going to help you plan accordingly prior to it, while you're away, and when you're back home. Back home, we'll get into in a second. That's really the pivotal aspect of this. So know whether you're going to have some breaks, time off, specific meals. And another little, I'll do my little prime tip. Another prime tip I'd give is, if you're not entirely sure, right? If you're not entirely sure how it's going to go, and you kind of know you want to deviate slightly, but you're not too sure what that is, you want to test the waters when you're over there. What I'd say to you there is, for the first day, try to stick to it as much as possible. And if you spot specific things that you fancy, say, look, if I really still fancy those, I'm going to have them tomorrow. And try that, because most of the time when people are on holidays, they tend to stick to the one kind of home base. If there are things that pique your interest, check if you can do a case of, yeah, that's lovely. If I still want that tomorrow, I'll go and get it. What that's going to help with is basically taking the impulsivity out and allowing yourself to make an informed decision based on choice rather than compulsivity. Now, next thing, if you try to maintain some simple daily routines throughout your holiday. Now, that is very case dependent, right? You might be on a holiday that by design every single day is different. By design, everything's a little bit up in the air. But trying to maintain some simple daily routines, even minimal activities, will bolster your sense of continuity, stability, and self-control. If you can show yourself having the self-control to get up at around the same time, put the kettle on in and around the same time, read the news in around the same time, whatever it may be, adding lemon water in the morning, where it's going to stabilize your blood sugars, having small little things that you can do every single day that show you that this is not a total chaotic break from your daily routine, is hugely, hugely helpful. So the habit expert James Clear has shown through research that maintaining very small, consistent habits while you're away preserves up to 80% of your long-term progress. That can be anything. You basically want to show yourself that even though you're away from your environment, you've not just turned into a chaos goblin, you're still able to maintain very small things. And that can be 10 minutes of movement, 10 minutes of squats, sit-ups, 5 minutes even, as long as it's fairly continuous throughout your holiday period. This is going to help hugely make you feel like you're still in control of some small health habits. The other thing I would say to you is, try to make a habit, whatever it is you've decided. Try to make a habit of reading an article. I'll do my little thing. Prime tip. Reading an article or watching a short YouTube video that is to do with your health goals, right? Usually at home, if we're fairly serious and fairly locked in with our goals and our commitments and our intentions, we have a tendency to digest content that has to do with it. This primes us hugely for staying on track. If you see people doing it, you're more likely to want to replicate it. If you're somebody that will have access to internet, which most of us, even on holidays, we do, try to consume as part of your new daily habits something to do with your health goals, be it an article or a short YouTube video. That is going to help you hugely to keep your mind on track. Now, sleep is foundational. Again, I understand that this is, there's a lot more variance in holidays where these things are concerned. But when you're tired and when you're hungry. You're not you when you're hungry, you're not you when you're tired. The more tired you are, the more likely you are to want to go for something quick, easy, sugary, and fat and carby all in one together. Because that basically is going to bolster your energy in your brain a lot quicker than other sources of food would. So if you find yourself at the tipping point of being exhausted and of being hungry, that's usually when kind of haphazard decisions come in. The other thing is when you're after alcohol, be it on the evening or the day after. I'll focus on the day after because what you do on your evening is yours, really. But the day after, if you're somebody that's gone low carb, you're more likely to crave high carb foods. Now, that can be a decision that you make, that you're going to have something high carby in the morning just to line your tummy, get yourself back on track, and then go back to your low carb. It can be a decision that you have foods available to you that you've already pre-planned. Look, there's a brilliant gyros place down the street. They do amazing meats. I'm going to have that the morning after because I really fancy it and I just want to have that planned. So tiredness, hangovers, and hunger are all tellers of, are all environments where you're more likely to crave carby foods. You can plan for that, or you can give yourself a little bit of compassion that this is a little bit outside of the norm. If you do feel these things and you find yourself reaching for specific foods, you haven't failed. It's your body basically saying, I am getting these signals. Whether you want to listen to these signals is up to you, right? Planning here and making decisions rather than kind of falling into the, what's that thing people say, only dead fish go with the flow. Overall, right? It's not that I'm telling you to be totally rigid with things. It's just from my experience working with people over last number of years, people who've made somewhat of a plan and can see themselves stick to it, even if the plan includes off meals, even if the plan includes 3 days of the week towards the end of a 1 week holiday where they say anything I wanted over the week, I've pushed into those days. Firstly, you're less likely to eat everything you wanted in a week in your breakout days. But secondly, if that was the plan going in, they've stuck to their plan. They've stuck to their plan. 3 days from 1 week in a year will not deviate you totally. So if you've made your plan and stuck to it, you will feel better about yourself. So be very cute where that's concerned. Now, the other thing that throws people is social pressure and building a few boundaries, particularly if you're on a family holiday. So communicating your plans clearly with loved ones. Caveat, you know your family better than anybody else does, right? This is totally up to yourself, but from a research perspective, if you've set some very clear boundaries, which is, look, lads, I'm doing something, I've been sticking to it, I know we're on holidays, and I appreciate that you just want me to join in on the fun with stuff. I will be with you and I'll be having just as much fun, but please do not Mrs. Doyle me into doing something and putting pressure on me because that just isn't fair. It's okay to communicate that before you get stressed, before you get tired, before you get fed up. Say it in a way that, you're feeling good, you're feeling in control. You have a conversation, be it individually with people, which works a lot better for most Irish families. Individually with people, say, look, I've been doing really well and I'm really proud of myself and I want to stick to this. If I choose to come off plan, that's my choice. I don't want it to become a talking point and a discussion. This is very difficult and I really appreciate that. But communicating your boundaries clearly is very important because sometimes loved one will badger you because they don't know how else to express that. So they could badger you in, oh no, it's got carbs. Oh no, didn't you say this? Didn't you say that? And that is going to bug the living hell out of you to the point where you will likely say, do you know what? I'm having a holiday. I'll do what I want. Or inverse, with the best of intentions, when people and families value novel experiences together, which is a very big family bonder, it can be a case that your family will say, oh gosh, would you not just take the day off? Isn't it a beautiful day? And aren't we all in this together? And the musical music chimes on. And yes, but you still have choice where these things are concerned. So having had that discussion when you feel good, when you don't feel under pressure, when you're not in the flow of the carnival element of things, is the best route. Social psychology research, including insights from researcher Susan Cain, shows that clear boundary setting substantially lowers stress and anxiety. A lot of people are just stressed out of their box that they even have to have that conversation down the road. So they will tend to just eat quote unquote normally, whatever their family dictates as normal or their friends dictates as normal, which could be setting you back, making you unhealthy. But you say, look, I just don't have the headspace to have that conversation. That's a very, very common thing. So if you can catch people individually, most people are sound. And you know what? If they're not sound, maybe you shouldn't be going on holidays with them. So managing, and I'll wrap up there fairly soon, but if you have questions, please pop them in. Managing guilt, shame, and emotions. If setbacks occur, they're very likely to occur, right? That's not me not believing in you and your willpower and all that, but just where holidays are concerned, it is an outlier in your year, right? If something does happen, it's not the end of the world. The worst thing you can do for yourself is berate yourself and think that the level of guilt and shame and self-punishment you pose on yourself, the greater it is, the less it counts, right? So I had a little bit of potato, but I feel so bad about it. And gosh, no, I'm not going to eat for the rest of the day. And in fact, I'm going to lock myself in my room and just tell myself I'm the worst person in the world. There's no equation of that, right? It's not going to undo anything just because you berate yourself extra hard about it. What it is going to do is probably make you feel terrible. It's going to leave an impact there that even the slight deviation from how you usually eat equals shame, badness, big spiral. And that is not going to serve you when you get home, right? When you get home and you've had a very bad experience of your one time of the year that you got away and you scrimped and scraped to have your lovely French Riviera holiday or your all-inclusive cruise or your trip to Barcelona, whatever it is. If you come away from that trip feeling bad about yourself, that's going to leave an impact on the rest of your progress at home. Oftentimes, there's going to be, not for everybody, but for a lot of people, particularly women for some reason, there's going to be an association there with, I can't even go on holidays without enjoying myself. This is too difficult. I just feel bad all the time. Now, did the protocol make you feel bad? No, there's nothing in it that says you should feel guilty. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. The best route forward for yourself is to say, yeah, I had something that was nice. Even stop the end. Yeah, I'm going to have a low carb meal now for the rest of the day because, do you know what? I really enjoyed lunch, but I don't want to get to the point where I feel bloated. And it's all about you. It's all about your experience of things where this is concerned. Know the types of things that, know your limit, right? And that's different for everybody. Somebody can have a full-blown French baguette sandwich and it have absolutely no impact on their energy, their cognitive function, their bloating. These people exist. They're out there. If you're somebody that right, so the way I'll explain it is, whatever way made you feel better about eating a particular way that you did, be it more energy, be it less bloating, be it weight loss, be it better sleep, whatever your tellers were, better mood. If you start to see, gosh, my mood is starting to drop a little bit, I'm exhausted, my joints are at me and I'm bloated, that's an indication you've just had a little bit too much, right? They're your tellers, they're your compass. They'll tell you when you're on track, they'll tell you when you're slightly off track. When you're at that slightly off track, reel it back in. And don't make yourself feel bad about it. There is no point. The experience is going to happen either way. You can either feel okay with yourself, keep calm and carry on, as those pillows used to say back in the early noughties, or you can have a bad experience of it. The bad experience, first of all, it's going to feel bad, believe it or not. But secondly, it's likely going to do a psychological domino effect that you avoid by just saying, yeah, it happened, the end, I'm on to my next meal. So Brene Brown, who's brilliant, she's great lady. She is a researcher who focuses on guilt and shame, which sounds very heavy, but actually she's an absolute hoot of a lady. There's loads of her talks on YouTube. She's brilliant. Her research indicates that shame actually increases self-sabotage behaviors by up to 50%. 50%. That's a hell of a lot, right? So if you feel bad about something, you're more likely to self-sabotage by half in the future. That is huge. Try not to bring that into your reality whatsoever. Just take my word for it. And Brene Brown, who's dedicated her adult life to researching this. Practicing self-compassion isn't just a quote unquote nice to have. It is a tried and tested, proven method, to significantly reduce negative impacts, boosting your ability to bounce back from things. Now, the kicker, which I'll finish with because I'm just about time, is when the holiday is over, gently reflect on what went well, what was challenging, without any judgment, and put it into action, right? Be a researcher of your own experience. No judgment here. If this was another person who you were hired to look at and say, okay, what went well, what didn't, what can they do different? It's a lot easier to do it without judgment. So it's going to help you to put into place things that will bypass the triggers that you've noticed set you off. So not being at home, new environment, social pressure, fatigue, hangovers, You now are at home, which is your 90% of the year, right? Your routine, your day in, day out, and you've loads more information about yourself. You've loads more information about making sure you don't like to have boring meals. Fantastic. There's loads of recipes out there. Make sure that you keep a bit of novelty in there. It's going to give you loads of information that you can bring home and really get cracking with. If you get home and you struggle a little bit, reach out to somebody that can help with it. Intentional change theory, back at it, it highlights that mindful reflection significantly solidifies personal insights. That's a mouthful, but basically it means the more you self-reflect on things, oddly enough, the better you are going to be at putting things in place in the future that will help you rather than hinder you. And be radically honest with yourself. Like if you get home and you say, God, if I see another egg, I'm actually going to fling it out the window. Don't force yourself to have eggs. Go, what else can I have? Turkey rashers. Bam, excellent. Or I tried this weird little breakfast while I was away. Let's see if I can replicate it at home. Bring some novelty into it. Don't let yourself just must away into grey food land where you're bored and screaming. Get some of the holiday spirit into it. Hope you found this helpful, and I will chat to you next week. And if you, actually, prime tip, if you haven't planned your holiday yet, have a look and see if the places that you want to stay actually have options that you want to eat. That before you even press buy on something, check if there are foods there that you will enjoy, and that will support your your health habits. Bam, slip of the tongue. Right, we'll see you guys next week. Bye now.